Okay, so I want to talk about, you know, this story of the character of Jesus in the desert, and how after 40 days of fasting he was hungry, and then he was tempted by the devil. Okay, the devil in this case is his lower nature. And because of duality, it presents to him as a completely different entity, a completely different person because of duality. Just like stuff that's stored in our unconscious mind, or what you would call the shadow self. That's what it's called, the shadow self. The shadow self we're like split in two, right? Because of duality, many of us are split in two. Just like you have two hemispheres to your so-called brain, you got two eyes and you got two ears. So basically, we are split in two. So with duality, what it is that you have a shadow that grew up with you from the time you were born. Okay? Well, unborn, but kind of coming to this illusion. And so that shadow grows up with you, but is actually a different person. Okay, it's a different person because of duality. Okay, so you have the same thing. You have the same thing. So with the entity that would look like the devil, which was really Jesus' lower nature, the character of Jesus' lower nature, said, well, if you are the Son of God, why don't you turn these stones into bread, and why don't you do this, and why don't you do this, and if you follow and worship me, you can have all of this. Well, that's because Jesus already knew his power from growing up as a child. Okay, he already knew that he had a lot of power. Okay, so the reason why his lower nature was able to tempt him is because he was already aware of what he could do. Okay, so like, for example, right, if I am somebody who is a multimillionaire, right, but I decide, hey, just let me take a little break from this materialistic lifestyle just for a few months, right, and let me go somewhere and live a very simple life. It can even be in the United States of America, somewhere off grid, that's very, very country, or it can be in another country altogether. Okay, but you might decide, or I might decide, hey, let me just let go of this materialism for a little bit. Let me let go of this nice car for a few days. Let me let go of this nice house for a few months. Let me let go of all this stuff that I'm able to do, all these places I'm able to go, and all this stuff I'm able to buy, and all the food I'm able to eat that I have access to. Let me let go of that for a few months and live this very, very, very simple life where I'm actually going out to the well to get water. I'm actually finding another way to get my source of electricity, right? Stuff like that. Live very extremely simple life. To try to detach from being, to release the attachment to material things, because that is the dangerous part of having money. Having money is not the dangerous part. The love of what money can do for you, which can cause attachment to the material world. That's what that's about, okay? But being too broke could cause you to crave some things too, because then when you finally get the money, you don't know how to act. So, being in poverty is not great either. So I don't like to promote no poverty either, because I actually experience, you experience having good things. I grew up kind of upper middle class, but then I also experienced as a grown up not having much, right? I experienced kind of almost the best of both worlds, even though I didn't grow up with a family who were multimillionaires. I actually was upper middle class, so it wasn't too far away. Okay, but then as an adult, it's almost like a dive, and I experienced a world where, with very little money. Okay. And you don't want either side of those, because when you are just in poverty like that, it actually doesn't always necessarily pull you from the material world. It actually makes you kind of crave what you feel like you It makes you fantasize over things that you see that is hard for you to get to. And when you finally be able to get to it and get the funds, then you kind of, it's almost like a poverty consciousness, right? So I just say that to say, I'm not promoting poverty when I talk about having a lot of money, and being rich can be dangerous if you don't have balance. If you're not balanced with the spirits, and if you don't have that balance, right, then you could be too attached to the material world. And that's what makes having a whole lot of money dangerous, because people get attached. And then they don't want to, when it's time to really release the material world, because the physical world, or the physical illusion that is going to end. Right now, we are at that's why I'm talking about this right now. That's why I'm giving this example, because right at this very moment, the ego world is coming to an end. And the thing about the ego world is coming to an end is not really anything for us to be happy about, unless we are balanced and getting more in the spirit. If we're not working on getting more in the spirit, then the end of the ego world is nothing for us to be happy about. Because if the ego world ends, and then most minds are still stuck in the illusion and attached to the physical world, then you're going to go along with the ego world. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. And this is what I'm talking about, bringing up the example of the character of Jesus in the desert that was there for fasting for 40 days. Not the 40 days he was hungry. Okay. Basically, he was tempted by his lower nature. His lower nature still showed up. Okay. Because picture it like that. That was his ego speaking to him, his lower nature. That was his ego. Okay, or you might want to call it, lower chakras or whatever you want to say, but it was his ego speaking to him. Okay, saying that, I give you all this and this and this and this. Okay, same thing with a person who's a multimillionaire that say they want a very simple life. Okay, and they want to just kind of detach from the material world for a few months and live a very simple life, like the house, like this show that was called Little House on the Prairie. I don't know if that's a movie. That's a show from I think the 70s, 80s. So I don't know if too many people would be familiar with that, but it's like Little House on the Prairie kind of lifestyle, or maybe even more simpler than that. And where you really just going out to the well to get your water, and you kind of very simple life when it comes to getting your food. You don't have access to stores. You have to get what you can get from where you are, right? Very, very simple life. And then you get tempted by your lower nature, because you are aware that you're a multimillionaire. You're not poor. Now, somebody who don't have money, they don't have a choice but to live that lifestyle. But somebody has money, but they make a choice to go a few months with a very simple lifestyle. But then because they live their whole life in of getting what they want all the time, and then their first month in, or a month and a half in, because see, when you first start something, sometimes you can do well. And then after a while, when you think you got the hang of things, that's when that lower nature kick in and starts to tempt you when you think that you got it all figured out. Okay. So, maybe after a month in, your lower nature kick in and say, I'm sick of living like this. I got money. I'm a multimillionaire. I don't have to live like this. I can get whatever I want when I want. I can get a new car right now if I want to. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of the same example as Jesus in the desert. That lower nature kicked in, but because of duality, it presented itself as a different person, because it is a different person. Our shadow self is a different person. As long as we're in duality, it looked just like us, but it's a different person because we're in duality. That's why a lot of people do shadow work. And then eventually they go into non-duality. So you won't be two separate people, and you will be one whole person. Okay, that's the point of why some people choose non-duality versus duality, because with duality you're split in two, and with non-duality you're one whole person, but you're still working on resolving a lot of things. Okay, but yeah, I just wanted to say that. That's it. That is it. And I will talk later.